The creator of Clear Channel Communications, Lowry L. Mays, died about a year ago. And when that happened, my first thought was of podcaster Robert Evans, who does the Behind the Bastards podcast, which was acquired by iHeartRadio, which is part of the conglomerate iHeartMedia, formerly known as Clear Channel Communications. And my thought was that Lowry Mays will never be on the Behind the Bastards show because, iHeartRadio is Robert Evans' meal ticket. And also Lowry Mays, not as despicable as Hitler or Mussolini or Steven Seagal or some of the other people that Evans profiles. The main thing that he did is destroy radio and news radio in the United States and pave the way for right-wing asshole radio, talk radio, Rush Limbaugh, and so forth. Lowry Mays took advantage of the Telecommunications Act of 1996 and Clear Channel, small group of radio stations at that point, exploded. At one point, they had 1,200 stations. The results of this were homogenization of radio, eliminating local news radio, to the point where I know there's a story during Hurricane Katrina and a couple other disasters, citizens could not get information about the disaster or what to do or how to get help because the local radio stations owned by Clear Channel were not operated locally. They just had some DJ or even a robot at their corporate headquarters, and there's just no one there, and it was no longer, deemed profitable to give out local news of any kind, even during an emergency. So welcome to Doomed Planet Podcast, episode 90, Behind the Bastard, Radio Mogul Lowry L. Mays.
And now a word from our sponsor.
How much do we love iHeartRadio? iHeartRadio! 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 Love you guys, iHeartRadio.
Lowry Mays was a business dick. And what is the logical progression of, corporate CEO to make as much money as possible, as quickly as possible, and everything else be damned, including, existing structures that you are destroying in the name of profit and, anyone else other than your corporation. He was a success in that department. Bastard-wise, again, not a child molester that we know of. Just he was a right-wing chud, as many Texas business people are, conservative, Christian, and he destroyed local news radio in the United States. And on September 12th, 2022, he died at age 87. Father of 4, grandfather of 16, and great-grandfather of 3. He was reunited with his devoted wife, Peggy, in heaven. He was known as Chief. Was raised in Dallas, Texas. His father was killed in a traffic accident when Lowry was only 10. So he developed a close union with his sister and his mother, who taught him lessons of strength. And this is from the Dallas News, by the way. He graduated from Highland Park High School, where he's a member of ROTC, so got that military background. Then he enrolled in the petroleum engineering program at Texas A&M. And that was going to be, he's going to be a Texas oil guy. And he credits the ROTC for developing discipline, confidence, wisdom, and all those leadership skills that are important if you're going to be a ruthless corporate media mogul. Graduated in 1957, worked in Midland, Texas. That's where Bush had his family for a while, G.H.W. Bush, and where G.W. was raised for a while. Called up for duty at Brooks Air Force Base in San Antonio, and he served as the base's petroleum officer. Then he's assigned to Taiwan on a military exchange program to build a jet fuel pipeline connecting ports across the island. It's funny how Taiwan has always been like our little bastion of capitalism off of China. That's not new. The conflict there is not new. He supervised 10,000 laborers digging the pipeline by hand and reported to the chief of the Chinese Nationalist Air Force. So he reported to, Chiang Kai-shek's the fascist right-hand man. Before arriving in Taiwan, he met Peggy, and daughter of Benjamin Franklin Pittman Jr., and Bonnie Gunstream. So they moved to Taiwan right after marriage. And after getting out of the military, Lowry goes to Harvard Business School. He always believed that successful people were not afraid to strike out into unfamiliar territory. So he started an investment banking company. In 1972, some clients said he should invest in an FM radio station. FM was not really a big thing at that point. So KJ97 in San Antonio became Clear Channel's first radio station. The accidental broadcaster, Forbes magazine called him. He teamed with Red McCombs to purchase a second station, which was considered a clear channel because no other station nationwide could operate on its frequency. So that's where the name comes from. And he's a pioneer in the broadcast industry. Anticipating the future direction of radio industry ownership, he spent over a decade working on the deregulation of radio ownership rules, which Congress, while Bill Clinton was president and Al Gore was, thrusting this Telecommunications Act of 1996 upon us, he succeeded. Massive deregulation of the media industry, resulting in the consolidation and the ridiculous, monopolization of media that we have today. I guess that's not the right word. Duopoly is not the right word, but it seems like in every media, every industry, and of course every part of the media, like 3 or 4 giant companies run everything, and then there's like 20% of the pie left for everyone else. Clear Channel is going to go on to own 1,200 stations, 55,000 employees, $9 billion in revenue, best performing stock on the New York Stock Exchange for a decade. Lowry had an amazing work ethic. One of his most admirable qualities was humbleness. It's maybe why no one has heard of him, as opposed to some of these egomaniac media moguls like Ted Turner and so forth. He believed successful people must serve their communities. And so he gave to the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce. That's just a group of business dicks. He was generous with his time. The Mays Family Foundation, created in 1994, has made thousands of grants, hundreds of millions of dollars to local charities. So he's concentrating on San Antonio. His wife got cancer, and so he donated a bunch of money to Cancer Hospital. Of course, that is a typical story. Texas A&M. He was a big donor to Texas A&M. I believe the business school is, bears his name, the Mays Business School. And again, a huge success in business. And one great trick, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, is to watch laws being, going through Congress and watch the legislation, because that something like the Telecommunications Act of 1996 was a gold mine for anyone paying attention. He liked to go fly fishing in Alaska. He had a ranch full of zebras, kudus, oryx, and other exotic species. Yeah, he's got a bunch of kids. And there is a video of his funeral service online. And you know that show Succession about a family trying to divide up the assets of their rich mogul dad while he's still alive? The character speaking at this funeral, they remind me of those kids from that show, and they're all smiling and everyone's happy at the service. The preacher is making lighthearted, jokes, and yeah, of course they're smiling because they're going to get a lot of money. Lowry Mays had a business partner, Red McCombs, Billy Joe Red McCombs. He actually just died this February. Founder of Red McCombs Automotive Group, ended up being on the Forbes list of 400 richest Americans, worth $1.5 billion. He was born in rural Dickens County, West Texas. He started a Ford dealership and turned that into a co-ownership in Clear Channel Communications. And he owned the San Antonio Spurs. Okay. He owned a piece of property from Wikipedia surrounded by national forest near the Wolf Creek ski area. And he wanted to develop a resort community, and there's lots of lawsuits and people not wanting him to plow over beautiful nature to build, an area for rich people to go ski. Of course, winter sports are the most racist of all sports, even more racist than golf for obvious reasons. He's criticizing the University of Texas football coach. He was a reformed alcoholic, went into a coma, and then found God. And it was probably not that interesting, just another business dick. But, pretty sure he had a Cadillac with, cow horns on the front, that kind of thing. And like all wealthy people trying to launder some of their money and launder their reputation, he had a foundation. Red McCombs had a foundation. And, of course, Lowry Mays set up the Mays Family Foundation. Working together as a family, we've come together to adopt a mission statement. Like the creed our patriarch, Lowry Mays, wrote over 30 years ago. We believe our shared values are the essence of our family identity, and we begin and end with our faith in God. We recognize the importance of family. Why am I guessing that they don't want young women in Texas to get abortions? His kids are all on the board of the foundation, and most of them, have had careers working for him. There's a book called Right of the Dial, The Rise of Clear Channel and the Fall of Commercial Radio by Alec Fogey. It came out 10 years ago. History of Clear Channel. Clear Channel led to the decline of independent and locally owned radio stations, resulting in a loss of diversity. That's what happens when a right-wing Christian rich guy buys up a majority of radio stations in the country. Clear Channel success based on aggressive business practices, including acquisition of competing stations and the use of syndicated programming. It's like fire the local guys and run the same show on dozens of different stations, right? Clear Channel's homogenization of radio programming led to a decline in the quality of radio, loss of diversity in the airwaves, Clear Channel owned multiple stations in a single market. That resulted in lack of competition, reduced local programming, same thing again and again. And also you jack the rates up if you control the market. Fogey argued that Clear Channel's success was due in part to its willingness to cater to conservative audiences. Clear Channel recognized the potential of right-wing talk radio in the 90s and aggressively pursued the format, pushing the likes of Sean Hannity and one of the most diseased weasels to ever spout hatred into a microphone, Rush Limbaugh. I was really happy to see Rush get lung cancer and die a horrible, painful death. That was good. The book concludes with thoughts about the future of radio and challenges from the digital age. And again, I think Clear Channel solved that problem by rebranding as iHeartMedia and then getting heavily into the podcast business, investing heavily, to the benefit of journalist and podcaster Robert Evans of Behind the Bastards, who's never going to do a show about Lowry Mays. Oh, no. Back 20 years ago in 2003, Corp Watch wrote about how Clear Channel rewrites the rules of radio broadcasting. They are a product of deregulation, and at the time, they owned 1,200 stations, including 776,000 outdoor advertising displays. So there's a billboard business there. Clear Channel has eliminated entirely the local news department from stations that it owns. It's a quote from a disgruntled person. We had an industrial accident in the area not long ago where the plant manager called radio stations at 3 o'clock in the morning because they needed to get the word out to tell the community about the accident and to advise employees not to come to work. But he was greeted with an employee of Clear Channel who said, "Sorry, all our programs are delivered by satellite and we can't air anything on air until 6 in the morning." How does this serve the public interest? And again, there's something called the FCC, and they literally grant licenses to broadcasters who are required to serve the public interest in return for having the privilege of owning these licenses. That's gone down the toilet since 1996. Communications Act of 1934, right when radio was reaching its peak, allocated spectrum space to maximize the, quote, public interest and to encourage a diversity of voices so as to promote a vibrant democracy. Famous DJ Davey D from KMEL, a black-owned station in Oakland, California, helped launch the careers of Tupac and MC Hammer. In 2001, the United States was on the verge of invading Afghanistan. Davey D broadcast an interview with Barbara Lee, the only member of the United States Congress to vote against the war. KMEL, which had recently been bought by Clear Channel, heard about the show and fired Davey D. Then executives sent a memo to all of its stations at about the same time warning them not to play any peace songs such as John Lennon's Imagine or music by Rage Against the Machine. But according to this article from corpwatch.org, Clear Channel has not been opposed to all forms of political organizing. In 2003, the company paid for pro-war rallies around the country to support the invasion of Iraq, as well as for a 33,000-pound tractor to smash a collection of Dixie Chicks CDs, tapes, and other paraphernalia. Oh, God. And, of course, at the time, the FCC is led by Michael Powell, the son of Secretary of State and war criminal Colin Powell, who also died. And then, of course, the reaction in the mainstream corporate media was that he was this hero. Harry Belafonte just died, a courageous man with an incredible career, civil rights leader. He once described Colin Powell as a George Bush's house N-word. So, and Michael Powell in charge of the FCC just keeps getting worse. The Seattle connection to Clear Channel is that Clear Channel acquired Ackerley Media in 2001 for $800 million, maybe $1 billion. Barry Ackerley also sold the Seattle Supersonics to coffee chud Howard Schultz at about that same time. So they bought up tons of radio stations and also billboards around the country and made a local rich family much richer. I know that Barry Ackerley, God rest his soul, and his kids are all right-wing assholes, as are most business dicks. That's kind of a thing. But Barry Ackerley, again, very smart businessman, built a billboard empire, sold at the top of the market, bought an NBA team for cheap, sold to a rich asshole. And it's not easy. Not everyone gets to become a billionaire, especially in the media business. This is from iHeartMedia.com. New York, New York, September 16th, 2014. Clear Channel becomes iHeartMedia. Clear Channel announced today that it has become iHeartMedia, reflecting the company's success in becoming a one-of-a-kind multi-platform media company with unparalleled reach and impact. 859 radio stations in 150 markets, 245 million listeners a month. iHeartMedia Digital, 90 million digital monthly uniques. Premier Network, syndicated radio programming to 5,500 radio affiliates. Total Traffic Weather Network, Katz Media Group, and of course, Clear Channel Outdoor. Born right here in Seattle. Combined with Clear Channel Outdoor's reach of over 500 million people worldwide across 30 countries and 5 continents, it's clear that no other company can match our reach or broad spectrum of media platforms. Don't forget the iHeartRadio Music Festival, the Jingle Ball Concert Tour, the Ultimate Pool Party, and the iHeartRadio Music Awards, culture-defining live events. That brings us back to one of my favorite podcasters, Robert Evans. Built up an audience, and then he sold to iHeartMedia. And that, my friends, is how podcaster Robert Evans became financially successful. He's no Joe Rogan, but I know that he bought a farm outside of Portland. Some troubling aspects of Robert. I am a fan. I can't resist not listening to his show. And, Cool Zone Media is kind of his little media company that's owned by iHeartMedia. And they do a bunch of good left-wing political stuff. Now, I first heard of Robert when I stumbled on the Behind the Bastards podcast, right when it started, 4 years ago. And he was talking about, I started my journalism career at Cracked magazine. And he was saying it in all seriousness as if that was normal. I was hooked from that moment on this guy. I'm like, that's fascinating that he would consider not just Cracked magazine, which was like the second-rate imitator of Mad magazine back from the 50s through the 70s. But Cracked, the brand, was bought by some internet entrepreneur, Cracked.com, and it became a clickbait site. But they did actually do some journalism, some titillating Vice magazine kind of stuff. And Robert, I think, was in charge, was the editor for a group of people, like actual writers getting paid by Cracked.com. Robert also at one point was calling himself a conflict journalist, which is a polite way to say war correspondent. And yeah, definitely he's been to Iraq multiple times. He's been in war zones. He's not some wussy who just, podcasts from his wife's basement to a very small audience like myself. Problematic, he's associated with Bellingcat. Bellingcat is a news gathering organization that really does the work that intelligence agencies should do. And lo and behold, they receive funding from the CIA, from the State Department, from Western intelligence. And it surprises me that Robert has not, he's a loyal guy, I guess, but he still has Bellingcat on his Twitter profile, and surprises me that he hasn't cut ties and just, admitted, okay, Bellingcat, where he worked between 2018 and 2021 from Iraq, Ukraine, and also covering far-right extremists. Like, he should cut ties with those fuckers.
Bad decisions.
Robert admirably has done a lot of work covering right-wing groups in the United States. He and his people did an incredible job covering the police riots in Portland during the Black Lives Matter unrest. Was that 2020? And he got his hand broken by a chud at one of these protests. He's also a gun nut, which, that's fine. That's just one more interesting nuance. He knows a lot about firearms and weapons and war and all that stuff. So I think one thing he said, and again, I don't entirely trust him because he works for this giant media company and he has these ties to Bellingcat and stuff. But one thing he does say is that, hey, the left wing is strapped too, okay? Like, you think it's just going to be all right-wing guys in their giant pickup trucks that have the guns? No, the left wing, Antifa, is strapped too. So if you're flying some kind of Gadsden flag and a Trump flag from your $65,000 customized pickup truck where the bed is too small to hold a sheet of plywood because you don't actually use the truck for anything useful, watch out because fucking Antifa is strapped too, according to Robert. And great work on the George Floyd Black Lives Matter protests in Portland. He's right there as a journalist, right in the thick of it. And the incredible resilience and organization of the protesters. The police came out, inflicting severe violence. This happened in Seattle too. And they just figured, okay, the protesters are going away. The protesters did not go away. They came back night after night after night. Okay, this is problematic. July 2014 by Eve Tushnet. From Boob Jokes to Ukraine, a talk with Robert Evans of Cracked.com. This is published in the American Spectator, right-wing trash magazine funded by the Koch brothers. Like all right-wing trash. Talks a bit about his work for Cracked, the clickbait site. 5 terrifying things I learned as a drug-addicted nurse. Growing up in and escaping from North Korea. Oh, okay, so the American Spectator, edited by R. Emmett Terrell Jr. Yeah, some good people have had their stuff printed there. Tom Wolfe, P.J. O'Rourke, George Will, who is still alive, Complete Fraud, Malcolm Gladwell, of the pop sociologist and best-selling author. Then Eve Tushnet herself is an American lesbian Roman Catholic author and speaker who writes for The Spectator, National Catholic Register. Her mom is a professor at Harvard Law School. Her dad is a professor at Harvard Law School. Her mom directs the National Prison Project of the ACLU. She was raised Jewish but came out as Catholic. She is celibate due to the Catholic Church's teaching on sex outside of heterosexual marriage. God, these right-wing Catholics are nuts. Here we have on YouTube The Importance of Bellingcat by Bellingcat founder Elliot Higgins, CIA asset. I'm not going to bother to play audio from that. It's just trash. This is from Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting, Challenging Media Bias Since 1986. The new podcast oligopoly. Spotify and Liberty corner the market, while Amazon and Apple plot their ascent. And there were a lot of these charts in the late 80s, early 90s, media consolidation, and they showed who owns what in the media. Here's one. Liberty Media is a conglomerate that now owns 40% of iHeartMedia. They also own Sirius and Pandora. And then there's Spotify. NPR has some room in the media space. You have Apple Podcasts, New York Times, Amazon Music. Again, like every industry in this end stage of capitalism, there's like 4 giant conglomerates own most of everything, and then everyone else is fighting over the scraps.
Podcast, shout out.
Shout out to Robert Evans and his podcast Behind the Bastards and his media company Cool Zone Media, which is fully owned, I'm not sure, controlled by iHeartMedia, which is partially owned by Liberty Media, a media conglomerate, and good for someone that veers to the left to actually score big and be able to buy a farm. I encourage you to go listen to that podcast. Look up the Steven Seagal episode series. It's pretty funny. And here's some audio of Robert confronting Alan Swinney, a right-wing Proud Boy chud who I believe is now in prison during the Portland protests. And Robert is wearing a helmet that says press, and he's holding his phone right up to Alan Swinney, this ugly chud's face. And Alan Swinney is trying to be all threatening and move back. But, he's a coward and a chud. And now he's sitting in jail.
Move, get out of the way. Get out of the way. I need you to move. I need you to move. You're gonna move. You're gonna get out of the way. You're gonna get out of the way. Move. You're in the way. You're not pressed. You're in the way. Move. Move back. Move back, bro. Move back.
In Seattle, a lot of these wealthy homeowners have that sign in their yard that says, "In this house, we believe Black Lives Matter, women's rights are human rights, science is real, love is love," etc., etc. Yes, obviously, I think the sign should just say, "In this house, we believe in basic human decency, and if you don't, you can get fucked." This has been the Doomed Planet Podcast, episode 90. Goodbye.
5, 6, 7, 8. Goodbye. This is the end of the song.
As an artist, it doesn't matter how long you've been around, you need the radio.
Just thank you so much to iHeart.
Shout out to iHeartRadio. They changed my life.
iHeartRadio is the way I get to you.
Dream, work hard, and maybe someday somebody will be giving you an award, calling you an innovator.